You're welcome back from that break. The show here is The New Day and is a special edition that's been brought to you live from our studios here in Undecided. My name is Patrick Stevenson and I'm sitting in for your regular host, Bella Mundi, Johnny Hughes and Cookie T. We shall be getting into the newspaper review segment, but I have two important gentlemen who have helped us, who have joined us in the studio this morning to go through some of the major headlines. But before we get into the meat of it, I'd like to introduce them to you. To my immediate left, we have he doesn't like to be called honorable. He prefers to be called a comrade. I'm not sure why that is. He's tried to explain it several times, but I think he still deserves the title. He's in the person of the Honorable Murtala Ibrahim Mohammed. He's a member of parliament for Tamale Central. And then to his left, we have a very good old friend of mine. He's also the member of parliament for Old Tafo in the Ashanti region. He's in the person of Vincent Eko. Esifa, Vincent, you're welcome.
Thank you. You couldn't give any explanation as to why we are not seeing Johnny and Bella this morning.
Oh, so long coverage, long working hours, but beyond that, okay. I think some of them took ill, so I had to sit in for them. But I promise we're going to have a very interesting conversation. Just as the trio of Bella.
I hope it's not covered.
No, it's not COVID.
No, but whatever they are,
it's not COVID.
We wish them speedy recovery.
Yeah.
You can already see they are boxing me into the corner. But I am the one asking the questions this morning. Before we get into the meat of what our newspapers are covering, I think I'd like to pick your thoughts, Vincent. Obviously, I'm sure you understand why development in the Ashanti region and the just ended Congress that you undertook, the MPP as a political party. I know you are not. Are you here in your capacity as well? You're a member of the MPP and a member
of the communications team of the New Patriotic Party.
The question is, did you have stakes? Do you have an interest in the election that was just held in Congress?
We didn't have elections yesterday.
No, the Congress. Did you have an interest in the Congress?
Absolutely, because I'm a member of Parliament. I was sponsored by the New Patriotic Party. They paid for my fees at the Electoral Commission. And so I am a member of Parliament first and foremost, but I was sponsored by the New Patriotic Party. So obviously, and if you check the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, you are also, the Constitution of the New Patriotic Party. As a member of Parliament, you are a member of Congress, and so for that matter, you couldn't have been disinterested in what happened yesterday. What happened yesterday was, and in fact, if you check the theme for our Congress, it was our resolve, our commitment and determination to Ghana's development. We believe that after 5 years in government, we needed to take stock. We needed to have an engagement to see going forward what we could do to better our party, especially when we want to set a certain kind of record that has never happened under the fourth dispensation with respect to democracy. Since 1993, no government, and I mean no government, has been able to break 8, i.e. being able to get more than 8 years. Absolutely. And so if the New Patriotic Party is set to make that history, it needs some amount of stock taking, especially taking into consideration what transpired in the 2020 elections. Even though the New Patriotic Party was not happy about the number of votes that it garnered, especially when you look at the investment that we made in the people's life, the investment that we made with respect to education, free senior high school education, with the investment that we made in the one district, one factory. Today, as we speak, we have about 106 of these factories operational. We have about 148 or 168 or so at various stages of completion. And so, if you look at all this investment that we made and the number of votes that we garnered, we were not happy. But having said that, the number of votes, and if you look at the gap that we gave to the NDC, is also historic for any second term government that we garnered, giving them a gap of about 500,000, even though we were not happy. But it's also historic because it has also not happened since 1993. So we feel that...
No, but you had in 2017 done
almost 500,000.
Almost a million.
Almost 500,000.
In 2017, at the end of the 2016 general elections, you had almost twice that.
Absolutely. That is why I'm saying that whilst we were not happy.
Do you still count that as a reposition of confidence by the ordinary Ghanaian and the party over the 8-year period? Over the
when you look at the investment that we made in the lives of the people, I do not think that the people were not happy with our performance. Some probably internal issues that we have as a party culminated to the number of votes that we got in 2020. So that is the mindset.
Do you think at the end of this Congress you've come back stronger when you look at the developments in 2020
Absolutely.
in the party that you have just outlined, which led to those results?
If you listen to what the president said, the president was very succinct, was very clear that learning from 2008, we cannot allow internal competition to, as it were, derail the effort and the performance that we've been able to give to the people of Ghana going forward, especially in 2024. And so whatever we did not do right in 2008, whatever we did not do right in 2020, we need to learn from it as a government. We need to make sure that after learning from it, we do what is right so that the Ghanaian people will be able to have that confidence they had in us in 2016. Because I have so much belief in the New Patriotic Party that in Ghana here, as we speak, there cannot be any political party that can compare itself with the New Patriotic Party when it comes to investing in the people. Because on this platform, I've always been asking this question, and today I'll ask that same question to my brother. Tell me one social intervention that the NDC, since 1992, has been able to bequeath to these people. Every major social intervention that has been introduced in this country, I can tell you, is coming from the New Patriotic Party. The National Health Insurance Scheme, the free SHS, one district, one factory, one village, one dam. In fact, at the time that they failed to, or if you like, they said that they were not going to be paying teachers' allowances. At the time that they said we're not going to be paying nursing allowances, it was the New Patriotic Party who came back to government to reintroduce all these things. So there have not been any major social intervention program that has been introduced by the NDC.
And that is why you think you are going to break the 8.
So I think that barring any internal difficulties, the NPP should be able to break the 8. And that is why we have foreseen, and the saying goes, to be forewarned is to be forearmed.
Hold the adage for me. Let me go to Honorable Murtala Mohammed. You've heard him. First of all, I know there's a lot of things you probably may want to react to, because obviously he's talked about social intervention programs that he credits the MPP as a political party with, historically over the last 30 years or so. What I want to find out from you, did you follow the Congress of the MPP? Of course, they are your major, opposition political party. Did you follow the Congress? And, what were the major highlights for you?
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
And good morning to my honorable friend. And good morning to your cherished viewers and, of course, the good people of Tamale Central. You wondered why I repeatedly insist that I do not want to be addressed as honorable member. I prefer to be addressed as comrade. If you are wondering the reason, having listened to my honorable friend, I think that you can come to your own conclusion. Sincerity matters so much in politics, and the distrust the people of this country have for politicians is becoming emboldened. And it is emboldened because of some of this deceit that people who know and know better. He has worked at the Ministry of Education.
Yes.
And he knows too well that the NDC had several social intervention programs. Yet he decided to say that he has been asking on this platform, and he's asking me today. Let me just respond to that and put it somewhere so that I can deal with very important issues. As a matter of fact, this morning, I prepared with the bullets of elephants, and I don't think that it would be appropriate I use those bullets to run after rabbits. So let me respond to that first. He is aware that President Mahama introduced free school uniforms. That is a social intervention policy. He is aware that there were free sandals. That is a social intervention program. He is aware that President Mahama indeed instructed his appointees to give a percentage of our salary for the purposes of providing cheap compounds across the country. That is a social intervention program. By the way, he is not even aware, in terms of free education, the NDC started implementing free education. If you check Article 25 of the 1992 Constitution, and as a student leader in this country, that was always the basis on which we demanded that government needed to provide access to education to all, that it must be progressively free. So when they repeatedly make these statements, I wonder whether there is a proper appreciation and understanding of what constitutes a social intervention program. The existence and the survival of the social intervention programs with which he spoke with alacrity could not have been done but for an intervention the NDC made, the provision of the VAT. Mind you, and I'm informing him, that the VAT, as a result of the monies that it generates, takes care of NHIE, takes care of many of the GET Fund, the schools that are provided. You didn't only oppose it, you demonstrated against it. The demonstration was led by the current president. 5 people were gunned down, including a 14-year-old boy. When you had the opportunity to win elections in 2000, the people of this country was expecting justice, not from anybody, but then the one who was made the Minister for Justice and Attorney General. As we say today, the blood of those 14 people are still in the hands of Mr. Nanado. And you sit here, you talk about social intervention program that the NDC introduced. But I leave that to the people of this country. They have an understanding of what constitutes social intervention. The NDC, as a matter of fact, provided free fertilizers for cocoa farmers, free. You came, there were some of them left. You sold those fertilizers to the poor farmers. The NDC subsidized tractors. And those tractors, what did you do about them? I think that you ought to have an appreciation what constitutes social intervention. But I would leave those rabbits there and deal with the elephant in the house. They had their Congress.
Yes.
The purpose for the Congress was to have amendments in some of their constitution. And the amendments were largely bordered on ethnic and religious divisiveness, and I'll come to that. They went there. They should tell us one single amendment with which they came to at the Congress. They spent 90% of their, in fact, they spent 10% of their time at the Congress doing nothing. 90% of the time was spent discussing the NDC. And 60% of that 90% was spent discussing President Mahama. Arrival of guest President Mahama. Introduction of dignitaries President Mahama. As a matter of fact, the speech delivered.
But is it not fair?
Hold on,
because
please.
you are there.
I will tell you why it is not fair.
It's a competitive political environment.
I will tell you why it is not only unfair, but reckless and irresponsibility. I will tell you. Arrival of dignitaries President Mahama. Introduction of dignitaries President Mahama. The speech delivered by their regional chairman, Ashanti regional chairman, President Mahama. And he even ended up insulting the people of this country, that our economy is better than any economy in the world. The president's speech, President Mahama. The vice president's speech, President Mahama. The national chairman's speech, President Mahama. The people of this country didn't elect you to discuss President Mahama. They elected your party to fix the rot, the mess that you created. You see, and all of them, the focus is on breaking the 8. Their focus is not on the mess they have created. The economic quagmire, the recklessness, the corruption, the insecurity. That is not their focus. The focus of everybody in MPP is how they break the 8. You are a government, for God's sake. You are not an opposition party. And they are still not realizing that the positions by the table have actually changed. You are no longer opposition. Now you go there and you mock the people of this country. You are not talking about how the COVID, which is increasing day by day today, it never featured in their Congress. Not a single person spoke about it. And what they did there was a COVID spreader. And this spreading of the COVID was done by no less a person than the president. Now the president also said that they need discipline. Why? He and the vice president demonstrated the indiscipline because there was protocol in discipline. As a matter of fact, the president should be the last person to arrive at the function. He arrived before the vice president. So if you want to talk about indiscipline, they didn't only walk it, they demonstrated indiscipline. Now, people will look at you and say that if you are telling us within the party, we need discipline to be able to break the 8, not to fix the rot, not to stem the tide of insecurity, not to reduce the corruption, not to explain to the people of this country why the economic stagnation that we have. If you want to know why, with all your so-called, interventions and things you did for this country and they voted you out, don't look at just the profits. Look at the debt too. The reason why the people of this country rejected you in 2020, but for the in-law of the president, in this case, Jin Mensa, who is an in-law, I don't think you can challenge it. Lukubaku sat on Good Morning Ghana and said, hold on. Personalize what? When I said the woman was an in-law, a family relation to the First Lady, Kweku Baku sat on Good Morning Ghana and said, it has everything to do. I am coming to that. Kweku Baku sat on Good Morning Ghana and said that was not true. And that ended it. But in the court, it was proven beyond any doubt that she was an in-law. She is not only an in-law, an activist of the MPP, but for the intervention of that activist who stole the elections for you, who stole the 2020 elections for you. The people of this country verdict was sincerely, and rejected you. And why they rejected you, if you do not know, let me give you these reasons. They rejected you because you won the elections on the wings of fighting corruption. When you came, you didn't only engage in corruption, you perfected corruption. As a matter of fact, go and take the financial statement, the budget of 2017. Juxtapose it with the subsequent budgets that were presented. If you take the 2017 budget, and that was the first budget this government presented, every single paragraph on that budget statement had fighting corruption in it, every single paragraph. 2018, when they were engulfed and perpetrated tremendous corruption, they started moving away. Take the 2021-2022 financial statement, which was just presented. Corruption is mentioned only 2 times in the entire budget statement. I know where they are mentioned. They are not talking about how they will fight corruption. As a matter of fact, when you appointed Mr. Martin Amidu, a person who I have always questioned his credibility in a way, you appointed him to fight corruption. He ended up describing the president as the mother serpent for corruption. The people of this country rejected you in 2020 because you engaged in corruption. In February 2016, President, then candidate Nana Addo in Kumasi, said that he was not going to engage in family and friends government. As a matter of fact, President Mahama had only one family member who was appointed as a deputy minister. Joyce Bauer had been in practice as a lawyer for 18 years. Joyce Bauer was more than qualified to be made a minister. President Mahama appointed her a deputy minister. No one could question her ability to serve. President, then candidate Nana Addo in Kumasi, said that he wasn't going to engage in family and friends. Tell me, he appointed 54 of his direct family members in his administration, including his daughter. Please. Please. You have, you see, when you were talking, you see.
Vincent, if you can, just allow him to land.
I spoke for about 7 minutes, and you cut me. He has spoken for about 15 minutes.
Oh, you want me to stop and you can't?
Senior brother,
No, Vincent, let him land.
Well, if he wants me to pause.
No, you land.
Pausing doesn't mean I won't talk about the rot. I'll talk about them. So receive them now, so that you don't receive them later. So I'm saying that he said why the kinds of things they did and why they got the votes they got in 2020. That is what I am dismantling. I am informing him if he doesn't know why the people of this country rejected you. You won the elections on the basis of corruption. You didn't engage even in corruption. You perfected it, Mr. President. You won the elections on the basis of the promise that you are not going to engage in family and friends. In fact, what we have had is the most nepotistic administration ever. Show me one single country under this sun that engaged in appointing family members like you did. Nobody forced Mr. Nana Addo then to make the promise, the pledge he made to the people of this country. But what are we experiencing? You won the elections because you felt that the economy was run down. The NDC had borrowed so much. Dr. Baumia said that borrowing was a lazy form of running a government. President Mahama borrowed 50 billion. you can see the project, the monumental project, even in
Honorable
Ashanti.
Mutala,
Hold on, let me land on this.
We shall get to borrowing the budget, etc. Because again,
you see,
you passed the bill. The bill was passed in Parliament, right? The appropriation bill.
Yes.
And that has a number of implications. If you look at the newspapers.
No, but I thought that I needed to give him.
No, I'm only saying that we shall get there, right? We shall unpack some of those issues. I should say though that when on the issues regarding Gem Mensa and the elections, in 2020, for us, as far as we're concerned as a media house, I think that the Electoral Commission, obviously declared who the winner of the elections were. And we will stick to those official records.
Jim Mensa,
I'm not too sure.
And in fact, I'm not too sure about my former lecturer, an activist of the MPP.
I am not too sure about
the former Tescom patron on campus. They robbed the election.
I am not too sure about stealing. I suspect in the chamber. You may, once
that was why you guys had called the elections for the MPP with an outrageous percentage. You did that here. You gave him a percentage. Jim Mensa herself didn't give them.
I mean, when there's
TV3 gave them the percentage. Jim Mensa didn't give them. You want me to quote and the person who said
that error and that conversation.
Oh, it was an error.
No, I think we went beyond that.
But the point is that how the elections were rigged.
No, the point is that the point is that we have the official declaration that has been made by the country. I'll play by that. I understand the concerns that the NDC has regarding the 2020 elections, but Vincent, you have 2 minutes to respond to any of the issues. Please go ahead.
You gave him.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Let me finish.
Please go
ahead.
Take
5 minutes.
He mentioned,
give him 3 minutes of my time. Take 5 minutes.
He mentioned that they introduced what we call progressive free senior high school education.
Did I say that?
You said that you introduced.
You see, he was not even listening. He was not even listening. I said that Article 25 of the 1992 Constitution says that education should be progressively free.
Yes.
And I'm saying that in the matter of free SHS, it's been something that every government has done. The NDC under President Mahama continued with making it progressively free.
Absolutely.
And that was the reason. So if you
I think that's the point.
So if you say day, it means the only NDC.
So that's okay. The definition of what they call
give me my pen, by the way. Give me my pen.
So you want the whole of Ghanaian
to tell Ghanaians, when you even borrow pens, you
the last time we came, you were using my own standing orders. That's fine. But
I gave them back to you.
I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you.
I can give him mine. Don't worry. Don't mind it.
Just to tell you, when they even borrow, they don't want to pay.
Their definition of what they did to, as it were, add on to chapter. Is it chapter 3 or 4? That is Article 25 of the 1992 Constitution to denote or connote progressive education was to make day school free. That was their definition. That's what they did. In fact, day schools
free
or day students, absolutely. That was your free. That was your progressive free SHS.
But I thought you said we didn't do anything.
Oh, hold on, I'm coming there. Because of that nomenclature that you added in that budget,
right,
in 2015, to define, or if you like, to allow day students to go to school free. I can tell you an authority. I went to St. Hubert. Go to St. Hubert Senior High School. In fact, go to any of the northern senior high schools and go and ask if a penny was paid for any day student. Not a penny was paid for any day student. So what it means is that you just told the people of Ghana and put in the budget in 2015.
Were they paying?
Oh, I'm saying that you paid nothing. I have had the privilege to see the handing over notes of Professor Jainana Opugwajman in 2017. And not a penny was paid. And in fact, I have visited a number of senior high schools where none of these monies were paid. So if you are saying that you added on to progressively free senior high school education, that is a fallacy. You did not pay any amount to it, number one. Number two, if any government, since independent, has been able to, as it were, build a number of factories that the NPP government has built,
which factories?
For the past 4 years, I have said that we have 105. You are in Parliament. You should know this.
I'm on trade committee.
Absolutely. You are even on trade committee.
Honorable Mutala.
104.
He started.
100. When he was speaking, I didn't interject him.
Are you sure?
You know, because you are a senior brother.
Are you sure you didn't interject me?
But that's fine. 104 projects or factories since 2017. As we speak, are in operation. If government since independence have been doing what the NPP have done within the past 5 years, Ghana wouldn't have been where we are today. And my brother Mutala should be able to understand that. In fact, there are about 164 of these projects that are at various stages of completion. Now, it is important for me to state this. He wanted to throw some dust into the eyes of the Ghanaian people that the president and the vice president was indisciplined, and for that matter, they broke protocols yesterday. You were not there. All that you were doing was you were just watching on TV. I will tell you, the vice president entered the grounds of the stadium earlier than the president did. The vice president was supposed to have used the main entrance and the president to have used the back entrance. When the vice president was coming, some Ashanti MPs, about 24 of them, decided to show some solidarity to him with their supporters. That delayed the vice president in getting to the podium. So by the time the vice president had gotten to the podium, the president had already used the back gate to get to the podium. So it was nothing like
a breach of the protocol.
A breach of protocol or an indiscipline, because there is a communication between the president's protocol team and the vice president protocol team. And indeed, the vice president set off from Golden Tulip around 8:30 a.m. and he couldn't have been late, or he couldn't have gotten to the grounds of the stadium, because getting to the grounds of the stadium is not the same thing as getting to the podium. And so if you were led by a number of people or an entourage, people who were showing so much love or deep love to the vice president, and he got to the podium late, it doesn't mean that there was a breach of protocol, and that should be understood. Again, he said that the Electoral Commission stole the elections, and I was happy that you were able to correct him on that.
Did he correct?
You went to court. We asked you to show us why you think that you have won the elections. You said that you don't have pin sheet.
Did we say that?
Is that what the NPP did in 2012? That when we went to court, we showed about 10,000 pin sheets to the Supreme Court. That because of these anomalies that we've seen on the pin sheet, we are calling the Supreme Court to declare for us. Indeed, that is how come there was a split decision, properly so called, with the bench, that is the Supreme Court, when they ruled 5-4 against the New Patriotic Party. Because we were able to convince them, we were able to show to the Supreme Court that indeed, even though you and I were not at that polling stations, but it was only the pin sheets that could be able to speak to what really happened at the polling stations.
Right.
You failed to do what we did in 2012. Yet you wanted the Electoral Commission to call an election for you.
I will want us to rest that, the 2020 general elections issue.
Hold on. He spoke about
for a specific reason.
Let me end with that. Let me end with that.
Had ruled on that. Both parties, were in the court. You advance your arguments. The court considered the facts of the case at the time and made a decision.
Absolutely.
So I think we should put that to rest.
That's
and
okay.
Then move on with the issues we have for
corruption.
the morning.
That the NPP has perfected corruption. Jesus Christ.
Nanado, he said
this is the NDC
of corruption. Yes.
This is the NDC.
CDD says it.
This is the NDC that we had a whole Supreme Court in its obiter dictum when it was given a judgment that indeed there has been a great loot and share.
Why is that same Supreme Court not talking about the robbery we are experiencing?
Can I finish?
You finish.
Senior, can I finish?
Finish. Honorable.
Oh, senior. Senior.
Honorable.
Me than you there. Oh.
He's trying to
that the Supreme Court themselves said that the NDC government has the penchant of engaging in great loot and share.
Did the Supreme Court say that?
Absolutely. They said that in one of their rulings. It was an obiter. Oh, hold on. It was an obiter dictum. It was not something that was supposed to have impact or having some consequences on the judgment that they gave. I think it was Justice Doche who mentioned that.
Okay.
That the NDC government has the penchant of engaging in great loot and share. Indeed,
he never said
this
that.
President, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, when he says that he's the one who has perfected corruption, every single corruption allegation that has been made against any of his appointees has been referred to the appropriate state agency to deal with those corruption allegations. Tell me one.
Do you listen to us?
With the issue of Asenso,
I'll tell you.
with the issue of PPA, whatever.
I'll tell you.
All of them has been referred to the corruption agencies that are supposed to be dealing with these matters.
Really?
He will tell you, oh, the president is now a clearing agent and he will clear his people and all that.
I haven't said that.
No, I'm just, hold on. And the president has been covering these people up. No. The president has the responsibility to refer any allegations or some of these allegations to the people. He is not the one to imprison anybody. That is not his responsibility. That is not the president's responsibility.
But you do admit, Vincent, that he has a responsibility to show leadership in dealing with.
Absolutely. That is why I'm saying that. When these allegations are made against his appointees or any person who is affiliated to his government, he has shown that leadership in referring these individuals to the state agencies that are supposed to be dealing with these things. And at every single time.
But how do you square that leadership against, for example, you know, the in excess of 10 billion Ghana cedis that the Auditor General, for example, has reported as coming out of, you know, public mismanagement? How do you square that?
Do you know that His Excellency the President's government since 2017, and in fact, if you add President Kufuor's time, has been one of the government, or has been one of the government that have been doing so with respect to the passage of acts, or if like legislation, to deal with corruption. Let's check. Whistleblowers Act.
No. So I understand. I'm just trying to let you know. I'm just trying to let you know his credentials in that regard.
Which
I think the question I'm asking,
because
I don't know. Let me finish
have
the
been
question.
passing
credentials
to deal with corruption in this government.
What I'm asking you, what I'm asking you to square for me. I see you have, you know, canvassed, you know, his commitment to fighting corruption. I'm only asking how we square that, you know, with, you know, the reports that's coming from a state agency that's supposed to be looking into public financial management. And the Auditor General has been quite clear, right? Unless, of course, the report of the Auditor General has come to Parliament that I suspect both of you have seen, we're going to question that report. But if that's the case, how do we square that?
I'm telling you that the president has the responsibility to refer any matters of allegations, especially when it is appointees of his government, to the proper agencies to deal with them.
Right.
Okay? It is also the responsibility of parliamentarians who place that oversight responsibility on state agencies, especially at the level of the Public Accounts Committee, to scrutinize agencies or to scrutinize persons who are clothed with the responsibility of the usage of the resources of the state. So it cannot necessarily be the president. As legislators, we also have a role to play to deal with corruption.
Would you say you both have failed?
I don't think so. We continue to play our oversight responsibility day in and day out. He just told you that he's part of the Public Accounts Committee. I don't think that he has failed in his commitment to deal with corruption. As far as he's having that oversight, as far as playing the oversight responsibility is concerned. So, the judiciary, the legislature, and the executive all has a role to play in dealing with corruption. All has a responsibility in dealing with corruption. So you cannot lay the blame only at the doorstep of the executive, especially the president, and say that the president has perfected corruption during his term of government. That cannot be the case. In fact, if you are talking about any president since independence who has been tagged as very corrupt, especially because of his actions and inactions, that I can tell you is President.
Honorable Ezifo, you hold your thoughts on me. Yes, I will allow you. I will allow you. But just a minute, because we are in Parliament.
No, but I need to respond to
yes,
someone.
Definitely.
Give me 2 minutes. Me, I don't
I'll give you.
He called for 2 minutes.
I'll give you time. I'll give you time to rebut to that. But I want us to box that conversation together with developments in Parliament. And on Friday, and I see that captured, you know, literally in all the newspapers we have this morning, that, you know, we have approved the appropriation bill, which is supposed to result in, you know, the country spending about 145 billion, a part of which is for, you know, clearing arrears, a part of which is supposed to be paying, you know, interest on our debts that we have borrowed over the last couple of years. And so I think what I want to put to the two of you, and I'd like to hear your thoughts first as you respond to Vincent. 145 billion is no chicken change. And I think as part of the process, there are quite a number of concerns that were raised by a number of Ghanaians. You know, e-levy is one. There are several other development issues that equally came up in the budget. In your mind, 145 billion that you ended up approving, will that improve the quality of life for the ordinary Ghanaian on the street?
Well, before I come to that, it is absolutely false to say that this president referred allegations of corruption against his appointees, some of whom are his family members, to a single corruption-fighting agency for the avoidance of doubt. We are talking of the Shraj. We are talking of the Minister of Justice and Attorney General, which has the prosecutorial powers.
Right.
We are talking about the Office of the Special Prosecutor.
The CID.
The CID, for them, fighting is just to do investigation. And if you want to look at those who actually deal with it, we are talking about the Minister of Justice, the Attorney General, who would then have the capacity to prosecute. We are talking of Shraj and also the Special Prosecutor.
So the Shraj also does the same investigation.
Yeah.
They don't have any power to prosecute. They will have to refer
Yeah, but they would have done the investigation.
So the CID does the same thing.
Yes, so we should all reduce it to the Attorney General.
I'm
right?
not saying so. I'm
No,
not saying
by
that
logic,
the CID also plays
if by that logic, let's
dealing
say,
with corruption.
okay, by that logic, let's forget of all of them. Let's look at the Minister of Justice and Attorney General and also the Special Prosecutor. Visa racketeering was never referred to any of these people.
Did you petition the president?
Hold on, I don't need to petition the president.
Why don't you need to petition the president?
Hold on.
Why don't you need to petition the president?
Mazani,
that is why I said that every petition that has been sent to the president has been referred to the appropriate
can I
agency.
finish? Oh.
So if you
I
sit
finish?
on TV
I
and
beg
make
you.
these allegations,
I beg
then you
you,
want the president
can I finish? In the matter of the former Chief Justice, in the matter of the current Electoral Commissioner, people have petitioned. The presidency has done nothing. Absolutely nothing. Spare me with this petition thing. Please, can I finish? Can I finish? You see, when he was...
Vincent,
I beg you,
Honorable Vincent,
Vincent,
Honorable
you and I can always have
Honorable Vincent,
Honorable
Sifa, if you can allow him,
he and I, we can always have a conversation.
But
you say that we didn't do anything about it. That is not right.
Vincent, you have made...
A prima facie case will have to be established by the president.
Now he's introducing...
Now he's introducing... If no prima facie case has been established,
allow him to finish.
You cannot say that we didn't do anything about it.
Now he's introducing what I would describe as an extraneous variable. You made a conclusive statement that every single allegation of corruption against appointees of this government have been, referred by the president to the appropriate fighting corruption agency. And I'm saying that that is not true. Not even one. Not even one. And I was giving you examples. Visa racketeering engaged in a deputy minister who was reported to the president by his minister. Reported him, in which you had people who were the victims. Mind you, another government was deceived by the same deputy minister when he wrote the letter to the Australian High Commission introducing those people as journalists representing media houses such as yours. For all you know, your name was included and you are here. So I'm saying that none. The cylinder corruption, none. The missing fuel at about 5 million liters, none. The Kelly GVG, none. The Ministry of Agric spending huge sums of money for adverts when there wasn't a recorded evidence of any media, print or electronic media engagement. So don't even go there. For you to sit here and look into the miserable faces of the people of this country. Is that what they taught you people at the Congress when you went to Kumasi? That when you come and sit on TV, say things that do not exist. Another one, he said, I was fortunate to be taught diplomatic practice by Ambassador D.K. Osei. He is my godfather. Ambassador D.K. Osei taught me when I was doing international relations at Legon. Now, your explanation of the diplomatic indiscipline perpetrated by the president and the vice president at your...
Senior,
can I finish?
Do fear self.
Oh, today.
I mean, how?
You won't even allow me to finish. I'm saying that
the president
diplomatic
is not offended.
The diplomatic... Hold on. He won't be offended, I know. The diplomatic indiscipline perpetrated by the president and the vice president at the President Mahama Congress, because that Congress was President Mahama Congress. Now you are telling me that the vice president entered through a different gate, the president also entered through a different gate, and because you had members of parliament who were accompanying the vice president, he got to his seat late. That is more a grievous even sin than the earlier point.
Tell me why.
When they talk about diplomatic arrangement or a protocol arrangement, the president would have to take his seat. The vice president would have to take his seat before the president took his seat. In this case, the president was seated. And the vice president came, whether people blamed him or it's a breach. So that was the indiscipline. Oh, let me just land. I will. He also said that this government, and you yourself, you were hoodwinked into believing, under President Nadando, Ameri deal, which they condemned, the presidency padded it with $800 million. Not 1 million. Presidency. The presidency, the citadel for corruption. They padded it. Yes, they padded it. Oh, please. Again. They padded it back for the vigilance. Personal what? The president is not a personal, is a president whose comfort and safety is ensured by my taxes. So I have a responsibility and a duty to expose the road.
Does it mean that 800 the citadel of corruption?
The Flagstaff House is this. You may disagree, but that's your democratic right. $800 million was padded to Ameri, but for the vigilance of the NDC. Ameri, would you bastardize the NDC? You accuse President Mahama without a scintilla of evidence. If you had the evidence, you would have done something. We have gone past that. It's not an iota of allegation that you made against President Mahama that you've been able to prove. The CDD is not a friend, or is not a friend to the NDC. The CDD, indeed, in the Afro-barometer, didn't give you a picture that is even getting closer to. As a matter of fact, Professor Jumoboidu, who happened to be very independent, he has been very critical of the NDC, he said that, look, the credibility of the president fighting corruption is in tatters. I mean, it's in tatters. Apart from that, every single allegation of corruption made against this government, the Frontier Health, you have the wife to the Asante Bediotu and another family member, millions of dollars are taken. In fact, the Minister for Health, when he appeared before the appointment committee, said that the Frontier Health operated illegally, that he was unaware of their operation, that they operated without a license. They have opened an offshore account, got another Nigerian bank. That bank takes the money, employed graduates in this country and paid them 837 Ghana cedis a month. They take the money, millions of dollars every month. They wire it into an offshore account. If you want to know a government that is corrupt, don't look further, just look over your shoulders. Or you get out of this gate, turn your left, you see a huge building standing there. That is where you see the clearing. As a matter of fact, the pettiness, the president himself responds to being a clearing agent. He responded to it several times. Today, he is so worried that I said that this government has perfected corruption. In Parliament, Esela Oshu was holding a placard describing President Mahama as thief. Without a scintilla. In this country, Manasseh Azure published falsehood against President Mahama. On the very day President Mahama lost the mother, that very morning, you guys went to town with it, knowing very well that it wasn't true. On the very day President Mahama lost his mother, Manasseh Azure, unfortunately, the same Manasseh Azure had to look for security protection for his life when he began talking about the rot in this system. So you see, President Mahama could take it. The difference between the NDC and the NPP is that whereas the NDC can take it, the NPP cannot. So you went there for Congress. Tell me one single amendment. Look, and it's important I talk about this in last point, just 30 seconds. You know the amendment they proposed? You know the amendment they proposed? The amendment was so ethnic and religious divisive. I'll tell you, you had a deputy minister, you had ministers and leading members, including our colleague, the Impraiso MP, who raised an issue about the possible amendment and talking about the fact that if they want to add the electoral college, I mean the number of people who vote on the basis of the Nasara club, The Nasara, they are increasing against it because it is given one candidate advantage over the other, and they talked about the fact that it is given the Muslim community or northern community. Look, there was a decree which banned political parties formed on the basis of religion and ethnicity, and that created the UP tradition. My grandfather, who was one of the founding fathers of the UP tradition, the Twalenna, S.D. Dombo, they were the leading figures of the Northern People's Party. S.D. Dombo was the leader with 15 seats. Buddha went to parliament with only his seat. As a matter of fact, he lost the elections, and the chief said he wanted him to represent. But you see, you have formed the Nasara. You have formed the Nasara club. You have formed the Nasara club. You have formed the Nasara club. Just to present a picture.
There are two very important questions that I need to resolve. There are two very important questions. If you just allow me, there are two very important questions that I think we should resolve.
That's okay, but when you,
and I think if we are able to resolve those questions,
you're my brother.
If we're able to resolve these, if we're able to resolve these questions, I think it will be very interesting.
But just 1 minute. Just 1 minute.
Let me
just 1 minute. Just
Vincent,
just 1 minute.
You want to talk
I'll give you the opportunity.
You want to talk about President Mahama?
We're running out of 30 seconds.
You want to talk about President Mahama?
I am going to prove to you why John Dramani Mahama,
I told you
in 2012.
He's going to talk about President Mahama.
No, was rather hold on. You have given me 30 seconds. Let me finish. It's rather seen as the one
by who
supervised corruption in this country more than any other president in this country.
Who saw him that way?
And now listen to what Bagben said in 2000. Hold on, Bagben, our own Speaker of Parliament today. He said, and you can go to graphic.com, Mahama's government was an animal farm administration. Corruption at its apogee.
Oh, really?
This is Bagben, yes. 2.
Dr.
Hold on.
I will tell you what he
General
said.
Nunu Mesa, their own cadre of the NDC. He said that corruption under the leadership of Mahama is an epidemic.
Okay, so
Jerry John Rawlings, the founder of the NDC, the one who signed the constitution of the NDC with his blood, says that corruption under Mahama is no longer a practice, but has become a pervasive culture.
are we done?
You see,
Jerry John Rawlings was against
the difficulty is that if we keep going on who said what, who said what, more corrupt. The ordinary Ghanaian at the end of the day, the ordinary Ghanaian at the end of the day does not.
I've told you to go and check graphic.
The ordinary Ghanaian at the end of the day,
and you know that
does not benefit because at the end of the state loses money.
He's having a pen.
And that's the question I'm trying to put to the both of you who are members of parliament.
No, let me see.
And for some reason, you have both evaded the question. You have approved
No, I haven't.
145 billion in parliament.
I haven't.
Out of that appropriation bill that
then he
passed,
came in.
You see, I kept asking.
No, but you gave me the opportunity.
$3.5 billion. 3.5 billion cedis. Let's finish that.
Okay.
Maybe we'll take a minute each on this question.
Yes.
3.5 billion has been devoted to infrastructure, education and infrastructure. Okay. Now, Sen Ghana has produced a report which indicates that budgetary allocation is likely not going to be enough. At the same time, you have a government that has appropriated and approved 145 billion. I was only asking you both if what you approved in Parliament on Friday,
Can I answer?
if that
No, but
was
it's my turn.
sufficient,
I have to.
if that was sufficient
Can I have a look at your book?
in dealing with issues like the difficulties that we have in education that have been outlined on the front line, on the front page of the BNFT newspaper.
Have you heard what he said?
Which says about 2,417 schools are still under trees. And I'm putting this to you because you have been in the education ministry.
Have you heard what he just said?
Please go ahead.
The things he read, that is the book. He compiled it himself.
In
I wanted to see the book from which he read those things said by President.
He will show it to you.
He said he would.
No, he will show it to you.
Can you give me the book?
Please go ahead. Please go ahead. Vincent, go ahead.
No, can I?
Vincent, go ahead.
This is a book.
Vincent, go ahead.
You took my pen. You took my pen.
These are books that I've compiled myself.
Vincent, go ahead. You go ahead.
Everything that people said. Now, friend,
that's a lie.
Vincent, go ahead.
Now, in 2017 to 2018, the leadership of Dr. Matthew Poku Prempeh as the Minister of Education did something very critical. That was to conduct a needs assessment in all our senior high schools. And that needs assessment was to explore, or if you like, was to expose the difficulties that we have in our various senior high schools with respect to infrastructure.
Right.
Because of the introduction of the free senior high school education. Mind you, and I have always been commending President John Dramani Mahama I've always been commending him for introducing junior high schools that had to resit the examination. Hitherto, that kind of examination was not there. And so if you failed your BEC, that was the end of you. You better have to go and start GSS 1 somewhere before you'll be able to write BEC again. But John Dramani Mahama introduced the resit examination. And so the backlog from 2010 to 2017 was enough to flood our schools. And so that needs assessment at each school. And I will explain to you. Come to St. Hubert
Do
Seminary.
that quickly for me. We're out of time.
If you come to St. Hubert Seminary, St. Hubert Seminary's rector will be able to tell you that. We have 1,000 spaces that would be able to cater for, students at the classrooms. But the same 1,000 students cannot be in the dormitories. And for that matter, you will need an additional dormitory block. The same 1,000 students cannot be catered for at the dining hall. So we might need an expansion of the dining hall. That was the needs assessment that we did. And for that matter, we needed to make sure that we expand the infrastructure. That brought about the Get Fund 1.5 billion securitization loan. And as we speak, there are over 804 projects that have been completed from 2017 to 2021.
Vincent, what I'm asking you is the budgetary allocation that you have made of 3.5 billion. Will that suffice?
That is what I was building in the background.
No, you have made it at 3.5 billion Ghana cedis. Is what you have approved.
Yes.
I'm asking you if that is sufficient to deal with the constraints that you have in the
I am
system.
saying that it is not only at the senior high schools, even at the tertiary level, because mind you, from 2017 to 2020, those who have completed senior high schools definitely have to be at the tertiary level. And so some expansions will have to be at the tertiary level too. And so it might not be enough, but at the circumstances that we have now, that is what government has approved for us. Honorable Utala, I am part of the education committee. We approved about 17 billion for the education committee alone. That should tell you the government's commitment with respect to investing in education for the Ghanaian people.
Honorable Utala, thank you very much. We're running out of time. Let me put your colleague on.
But let me finish. Just 30 seconds.
Hold your thoughts.
At the education committee,
just hold your thoughts.
We have called for more monies to be given to the education committee, the education ministry, because there are a lot of things that they need to do, which there are no funds to be able to do.
Thank you very much, Vincent. Honorable Utala, if you can do this in a minute for me. I know we're out of time. You can do this in a minute for me.
Let me state this. The book from which he read those so-called statements made by Rawlings.
Want us to go there? No, let's go to Ghana Web.
Hold on. The book from which he read.
I've written it, but it doesn't mean it's not on Ghana Web.
Hold on. Even when I wanted to have access to the book, he didn't want.
No, you won't have access.
These are his statements. This, in fact, in the first place, those things he read and the first place are not true.
You cannot say they are not true.
In the second place, they are made from the position of absolute uninformed. In the third place, they are meant to cause harm. But I think that the people of this country would disregard such falsehood.
MyJoyOnline.com, 19th August
please,
2018. Go and check.
Viewers,
MyJoyOnline.com. This is what Backben said. This is what Backben said. 19th August 2018.
I'm out of time.
October 10th.
I gave you a minute.
We have that. This is within that minute.
Vincent, can you allow him at least respond to the question on whether we have sufficient allocation?
In the first place, you have about 100 billion approved Ghana cedis. Then you have a budget deficit already of 37 billion, even including this dangerous e-levy. Now, that is with the assumption that everybody will pay the e-levy. I am told that many people are moving away. I've heard MPs who say that they won't engage in Momo any longer. Your station interviewed, Momo vendors, and they said that people are taking out their money. They are free to go to IMF. The only way, or the only panacea to this mess created by this inept of administration is for them to fight corruption. The Auditor General says that 12.8 billion Ghana cedis was misappropriated for 2020 alone. The e-levy is supposed to give this government 7 billion. And I have heard all of them say, you want schools, you want hospitals, you want bridges, and you are saying they shouldn't impose e-levy. That is insulting. President Mahama didn't implement e-levy or introduce e-levy to build the regional hospitals, the district hospitals. President Mahama didn't introduce e-levy to build the roads. President Mahama didn't introduce e-levy to be able to provide the massive infrastructure. And you don't need to go anywhere. Let myself and my brother take a walk with your cameras. We just need to go. Reach is here. In fact, even when after President Mahama,
so we should also take you to infrastructure.
Tell me, a contract which was secured by NDC, the tema which was secured by
Honorable Mutala, 3.5 billion Ghana cedis
Tamale Central
for infrastructure.
There is Tamale Central.
Thank you to the two of you. I've been notified we're out of time.
But what is that?
You call it
viewers.
What is that?
This is the newspaper review segment, and there's been a heated conversation, as you can see here in studio, between the honourable member of Parliament for Tamale Central and then the honourable member of Parliament for Old Tafu, who have conveniently decided to avoid my questions about the. You know what?
He's talking about free SHS.
I get it. Honorable Mutala
but you talking about
Vincent,
progressive free SHS.
You see, I've heard both of you talk about corruption extensively.
Yes.
And you see, my own view is that if we keep going at it this way, the ordinary Ghanaian is going to suffer. Because again, we don't get to
spend time at the Congress to talk about corruption in the mess. Instead, they spend time talking about
NDC. But Honorable Mutala, let's move away from that.
But you remember the NDC conference in 2016? When John Mahama mounted the platform.
But Vincent, we cannot go back to 2016. Vincent,
Baumia has never been president before.
We cannot go back to 2016.
At that platform, that was an NDC platform.
Will you allow us to have this conversation?
Yet,
are we going to have this conversation?
You were chastised by President
No, he's vindicated.
Are we going to have this conversation?
Was an NPP platform that
are we going to have this
chastised Baumia?
Are we going to have this conversation?
Yes.
I'm saying that both of you are in Parliament.
Yes.
And the only way this economy gets directed is if the budget of the country is approved and associated appropriation bills subsequently.
No, that's not
no,
the only
appropriation
way.
bills has been approved.
The only way we can have this is that when the MPP 137 members, including the independent who agrees to sit with them and vote with them, begin to be rational in terms of not...
Oh, but they are your colleagues in Parliament.
Hold on. I'm saying that when they begin to look beyond political expediency and understand the excruciating, hardships that the excruciating effect of this
your mind.
Let's have a conversation. Let's have a. I'm trying to get answers. I'm trying to have answers. I'm trying to get answers. Vincent. I'm trying to get answers from the two.
That when they begin,
you have articulated your views quite clearly.
Let me read that one. Yes.
Significant investments have been made in education.
Yes.
Under Matthew Pokupe.
Yes.
Right. And that what you even advocated for the education ministry, 17 billion.
Yes.
We are seeing 3.5, which is so basically 17 billion.
Yes.
I want to find out from your colleague who's also in Parliament whether this is sufficient and how we square. If it's not sufficient, how do we square that against the call by the minority, for example, to get the e-levy and other sources of revenue scrap?
You see, I have always said that I have heard a lot of comments by many people, in fact, including very distinguished and respected individuals in this country.
Yes.
As to the role the minority plays in Parliament. Some even have suggested that we are deliberately frustrating, the government in terms of the positions that we have taken. I think that, unfortunately, what I see from many people is that they wink, nod, and ignore the NDC preparedness to, cooperate with the MPP in terms of ensuring that certain things are done in this country for the good of the Ghanaian people.
Right.
The reason why we even agreed to approve the appropriation, because we were conscious and mindful of not approving the appropriation, the effect it would have
ramifications
on ordinary Ghanaians. So that tells you how prepared we are to cooperate. But we have an issue with the e-levy, and it is not just an NDC issue. ISE, CDD, Imani, mention any other civil society organization that has the expertise to look into this. I've raised issues about that. Myself and he were all at home. After the budget was presented, we had a post-budget workshop. All the dignitaries and experts who were brought to take us through the budget condemned e-levy. As a matter of fact, Dr. Ali Nachan, we all read his books at the law school. Dr. Ali Nachan himself said it was regressive. And they made suggestions what government could do. If you look at it, Ali Nachan, for example, and ISE, have all said that, look, if you reduce it to around 0.5%, it may make a lot of sense. Because as an instrument of tax, it is regressive. And every regressive tax, the burden is on the poor, the already suffering mass of this country. are those who are going to suffer. You have a founding member of the MPP, Dr. Mpienim. He himself said, if the government is looking for money, then that's what they are doing. But if they are looking,
but Honorable Murtala, if you take that off, you create a hole of 7 billion.
No, you see, even without that,
now that hole of 7 billion, you have requirements like what you have here in education. I'm only asking you.
Even with that,
I'm only asking you that it's not. I don't think it suffices to only suggest takeoff.
No, we have provided.
What will be the alternative?
What will be the alternative? We have provided alternatives.
Which is?
The NDC alternatives include one. Why is it that you are asking people to pay, yet the budget of the presidency and government machinery has virtually quadrupled? Why?
Because they're failing to understand the items.
Can I finish?
Vincent, allow him.
I'll come there.
You are asking us to wear belts. You are asking everybody in Ghana, tighten your belt. Yet you don't even have belt hooks. That is what this government is telling us to do. You don't even have belt hooks. Now he's telling me that because of the item, there can't be any justification. Reduce the size of government. Reduce the size of government. Reduce the special assistants and aides that you have appointed at the Flagstaff House. That is one alternative. Two, we have also told you that the Auditor General you appointed after you have sacked and chased someone out and outrageously even said he wasn't a Ghanaian. The Auditor General's report for 2020 says that 12.8 billion Ghana cedis was misappropriated cash. Now, if you are working to get 7 billion a year as a result of e-levy, that is, if everybody pays, and 12.8 billion was misappropriated, you can increase e-levy to 20%. Once the misappropriation continues, we'll come to the same point. So the other option the NDC said, look, close the loopholes. If you close the loopholes, you don't need e-levy to be able to do this. Three, you have Frontier Health, run by some, and don't get me wrong, I'm not against any foreigner doing business in Ghana, because when I say this, some says, oh, I'm talking, my wife is a Ghanaian by law, but a Guinean by birth, so I have even gone international. So I've appreciated the need for us to, but I'm saying that to the extent that you have even foreigners working in our airport, that is even a security breach, because they have companies that are owned by Nigerians who have employed those people. Those monies you are getting, the millions of dollars, if you had given it to Noguchi, or if you had given it to Kolebu or Tetisam or any of the government hospitals, who would have done a perfect work, because that company had no prior knowledge or expertise in that area, and they have engaged Noguchi staff, exploiting the people of this country, and the money is sent to an offshore account. So we have given proposals. Assuming they were not proposals given, assuming they were not no alternatives, we would have been saying that yes, it is justified. All the aspects, including Issa, including the other Professor Ali Nachia and co, they have all given alternatives. This government simply will not listen. What they are bent on doing is to impose this. So it is not a guarantee that if we have e-levy, the 1.75 implemented and approved by Parliament, if you have it done, we will not get to where we are. As long as the leakages continue, it doesn't matter which tax instruments or regimes you introduce. We are going to be where we are. Reduce the profligate.
Thank you very much.
Reduce the number of fleet of cars that accompanies the president. We have given you the proposal. You wouldn't even listen.
Thank you, Honorable Murtala. You have 2 minutes. Do you think? No, because we're running out of time. We're working within time. We're running out of time.
How unfair can
No,
it be?
no,
Okay,
no,
take
no,
10
no, no,
minutes.
no, Vincent. No, Vincent.
But let me go to it.
Vincent.
Let me go
Yes.
to it.
Do you think the alternative he talks about?
He has not given me
Well, he said we should deal with the leakages from the Auditor General, cut back the size of government.
I will tell you why.
Okay.
You were in this country when in 2017 the number of appointees that we appointed was chastised by the NDC. In 2021, the number of deputy ministers and ministers that we've had from 120 or so to about 85. Hasn't that been reduced?
Can I give you a word?
Hold on. Let me finish. Hasn't that been reduced?
Look at
I'm asking
he
you,
has just
hasn't
2
that been
minutes.
reduced? If you check the components of the amount of budgetary allocations...
Can you reduce further?
Hold on. If you check the component of the amount of money that goes to the presidency,
right?
In 2017, we had not included free SHS under the office of the government machinery. But now, the amount of money that we are spending at the Free SHS Secretariat has now been put under the Office of the Government
How much
Machinery.
is it in total?
Hitherto, it used to be under the Ministry of Education.
How much is it?
So
Take
the
it
amount
out.
of money that the Free SHS, or we are spending on the Free SHS, is not part of the 17
take it
billion,
out.
but it is now part of the Office of the...
No, take
you
it
see,
out
the
and
mischief,
tell us
when
how
we do
much.
this mischief, and when we expose...
I said take it out and tell us how much
hold
is
on,
in
hold
the
on,
system.
hold on.
Please allow him
You are exposing yourself.
Please allow him
Straight
finish.
One Factory, they are all now part of the Office of the Government Machinery. They are not part of the Ministry of
Take
Trade.
out
So
all
I'm
those
just telling
things
you,
and tell us
I'm
it's
just
still
telling
more
you
than
that
what you had.
You cannot tell us that we have ballooned the amount of money that goes.
I said take out those ones and you realize that they are still more than what you had last year.
With
Why are you doing this
respect
to
to the
yourself?
implementation of the e-levy, yes, I have also read the book of Ali Nachia
Not
at the
book.
LLB.
He spoke to us.
Hold on. I know that Economist 101 will tell you that when you tax a base that indeed are not seen to be affluent or generating a lot of money, it is regressive. That is Economist 101. It is right and everybody knows this. But the circumstances, and I would have agreed with this position if not the introduction of COVID in 2020. Every time that we make this argument, they will tell you that we are blaming everything on COVID. Now who caused them?
You borrowed 2 billion.
No, now who caused them?
You borrowed 2 billion from the
I'm
IMF.
asking, who caused them?
$2 billion.
And so the circumstances before COVID...
How can you spend 54 million money of COVID to set up a bank?
I don't want to let him finish.
Let him
34 million money of COVID to set up a bank.
Please, let me finish.
34 million Ghana cedis of COVID money.
Whether you allow me, I have not finished. Let me finish. I am saying
don't
that...
go to COVID.
I'm saying
I
that
beg you.
the circumstances are different. The circumstances are different.
I'm literally out of time.
Listen to what the Tuvo said. Yes, it is not right to be taxing the people the way we are about taxing them. But we have no other way.
Say so.
We have no other way because
Who says that?
we need to develop this country.
He didn't say
we have no other way. We need to develop the country.
economic
We have to
impact on
raise
the
the
US.
revenue.
Check the
Thank you very much,
economic
Vincent
impact on
Tesifua.
India.
You borrowed $2 billion from the
viewers,
IMF.
this has been the newspaper review
You borrowed-
segment
you spent
with the honourable members of Parliament,
You spent 54
Murtala Mohammed and Vincent Tesifua, who is also the MP for Old Tafo. We shall continue to bring you the remaining segments of the show. This has been the newspaper review segment, and you can see the conversation has been very heated from both the left and the right. The budget has been passed. It has implications for what you do at home from 2021. So continue listening to the rest of the show that we have for you this morning, and we shall continue to bring you the remaining segments. Thank you.